So this is the Dynamics SL transaction import processing program that we have developed as a solution to run TI directly and automate it in such a way that all you have to do is place files, the actual CSV files that TI requires, out into specific folders, and once they're there, it'll pick them up and process them. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up the screen. You'll notice the first thing it does will log you into Dynamics SL because that is required for TI in order to execute. You could have brought the screen up on your own initially and bypassed it, happened to bring it up for you, but in either case, it's going to make sure there's an instance of the Dynamics SL programs running. And as you can see, it comes up and it's called TI Automation Processing, and it has the ability to tell you errors and what sort of things have occurred in previous runs, and that's why you see an entry up here up top, which you can drill down on this information. I'll show you in a moment. I've got some specific settings to pick up both the 0101 journal entry screen and the 0301 voucher entry screen from specific areas. Each one could behave differently. You've got the ability to configure those in such a way that you can decide what companies are to be run and what folders these are processed from. So it gives you an opportunity to run as many different type of screens through TI, assuming that you already have run those processes in the past through your screens manually to make sure the screens work properly before this product could actually execute those particular patterns. So I'm going to go ahead and start monitoring specific folders that I had set up. One is my general ledger accounting folder, and my other one's my vendor folder for vouchers coming in. And for this demo, I'm going to start out first my incoming folder for my 0101 CSVs. I'm going to just go ahead and let's just copy one over there and paste it. And what will happen is the TI processor will pick it up, and I happen to have it set so that it minimizes the screens. And behind the scenes, the 0101 screen fired up, and it processed the particular entries that were in the CSV. It showed the actual command line arguments that it ran in order to bring that through the process, and then it tells you how the process proceeded. Up here, you'll see that it created an entry logging that particular run. There were no issues. Everything passed. And if you want, if it was an error, you can also optionally do emails showing you what specific errors are out there. So I'm going to go ahead and run a specific case that has an error. And go ahead, paste that into the folder where it'll pick it up. And you'll see that it was a pretty small CSV, so it came up pretty quick. And you'll see that there was an error with it and the number of issues that were with the error. So let's back up a moment and see where it put these files when they were processed, because they're no longer in the incoming directory. The first one should have all files that have processed properly without error, or they just had some minor warning and they still processed into the product, into 0101 in this case, which is journal transactions. And if there are any errors, it will put all those files into the error area. So what this does is give you the ability to separate out good runs versus bad runs in transaction import. And if you noticed briefly, there was an error message that came up basically showing the particular TI process error in my email because I had selected that specific case. Now, it's not required to have errors through email, but it is something you can work with. And it's basically the error messaging that you get is going to be the exact same thing you see here when you double click on the issues, and you'll get a list of all the different issues that were recorded by TI. And also go a little bit further and say what specific fields were the issue. So I just clicked on the particular error, it said the field was the C account field. So you can find that within your control file where the C account field is. And I'm showing you which particular value. As you see, it was the 191D. This was the actual line that was trying to process. And so it gives you a quick heads up of what needs to be corrected within these files. And it does actually store these logs in your databases for as long as you wish. Now you can go back and look at prior months of logs. I only have those few, or you can narrow it down to just the ones you've run today. You can narrow it to just warnings, which I didn't have just warnings, and just errors. Now I'm going to go ahead and run the vendor case. In this one, I'm going to put it in its incoming location and paste it. That process passed. But I think it did have a warning. It did. See the voucher header, it still shows the one issue count for a warning. I currently have warnings coming across in email notifications as well. That's not required. Here's an example of one of the notifications that came across. In my specific case, it gave me the notification that it was out of balance. I'm not worried about that. I'm going to go visit this particular voucher because it's placed on hold. And so there's no indication of a real error. If I'm okay with everything, I can go ahead and just delete this entry from email. So that's TI processing in a nutshell. There are a lot of settings you can set up. I'll just show you the process list that I happen to have. I've labeled two of them on here. One is the journal transaction, the other one's voucher entry. And you pretty much can just set up your settings throughout and what email address you want it to go to and what screen. And if you're just using a company ID, that's the one you're logged into, or you want to use one that's in the detail lines itself, you'll leave this company ID blank. And the same is true with voucher. And you have some control, you can minimize, and you can turn this particular one off at any time if you only want to run a few of those. And as you see, those are different folders, where it's going to be looking for the incoming, where it's going to archive the good ones and the warnings, where it's going to place the ones that failed with error, and which control file it's going to consume. And it'll obviously support the simple or the advanced TI files, the control files, because basically, like I said, it's just calling the TI program directly as I showed in these command line routines. It does come with the full set of documentation. And we do have that available on our website. And it does show and give examples of how each portions of the product actually runs, as well as the different settings that are available. And there's even some lower level settings that are even available. For example, if you want to ignore specific messages you keep seeing in a specific screen and just don't even want to record it, it's one of those type of messages that are more of an annoyance than anything else. You can just get rid of those simply inside the system. That's my demonstration of the TI processor. Thank you.